Right, if you're just joining us, hi and welcome. You are hopefully in the right place. We are talking about the BSN program at PLU within the School of Nursing. I'm going to go ahead and get started in just a second. Many apologies for starting this session late. If you have questions, please do type those questions in. My friend Chuck from the admission office is standing by. He'll be kind of behind the scenes and might help out answering a few of those questions for you. But we will be talking mostly about the application and the admission process during this info session. And so if everyone is ready, I'll go ahead and get started. And I apologize, I don't know why you can see all my hundreds of tabs up here. I'm gonna not really mess with that right now. Hopefully you're okay dealing with seeing my actual browser instead of the traditional share slide, presentation mode here. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm not gonna distract you with my video, so I'm gonna turn that off. And again, as we're going along, just go ahead and type in those questions as you think of them. Or I might be addressing them during the session. So hopefully it'll get answered before you even have to ask it. All right. Okay, so before we really zero in on the BSN program, I do like to just touch base really quickly about our other nursing programs that we offer, just in case this info session or this program is not the best program or info session for you. So yes, we do have this BSN program, the Bachelor of Science in Nursing. It is a traditional BSN program, meaning that you should not already be a nurse. Or an RN if you are looking into this program. But I also want to tell you quickly about our MSN program. We have an MSN program for folks who already have a BSN. So if you do already have a BSN, and you're a nurse, our MSN program would be a great fit for you. Or we have an entry-level MSN program. That's what we call our ELMSN. Basically, our ELMSN program is pretty similar to our BSN program, but it's for folks who already have a bachelor's degree, just not in nursing. So you might have a bachelor's degree in psychology or something from, PLU or UW or wherever. This program is really cool because it gets you an MSN instead of a BSN, and it kind of builds on the education that you already have. So if you do already have a bachelor's degree or you almost have a bachelor's degree, the entry-level MSN would be a great program to look into, and you can contact the Office of Graduate Admission here at PLU for more information about those info sessions for that program. Okay, and then finally, we do have programs at the doctorate level. So our DNP programs, they're Doctor of Nursing Practice, so they're practice-based doctorate degrees rather than being research-based, PhDs. But if you are looking to become a nurse practitioner someday, you will be wanting to look into a doctorate program, and we have those at PLU. So just in case you already have your BSN, in nursing, or you have an MSN already, you can be looking into the DNP program. We have tracks for folks who already have a BSN and for folks who already have an MSN. So, in case you want to hang out at PLU for a few more years, and get on the road to becoming a nurse practitioner, you can be looking into those programs. But I won't spend too much more time on this. I do see that I already have a question. I will go ahead and answer this question right now. Someone who already has a bachelor's in a non-nursing subject, but does not have a nursing license. So the MSN program, the entry-level MSN program will be a really good program to look into. Some students who already have a bachelor's degree do still, want to pursue the BSN and just get that second bachelor's. That's totally fine. So if you do already have a bachelor's degree, I would encourage you to stay in this info session just to see if this program is right for you. But for this person asking this question, you already have a bachelor's degree. I think the entry-level MSN program is also a good program to be looking into. And for that program, we are no longer accepting applications for this next 2022 start time. So you would be looking to start in 2023. So we're kind of in between application cycles for that one. So just so you know, but yeah, there's other info sessions about the ELMSN program. So hopefully that answers that question. And I'm going to go ahead and move on, but let me know if you have more questions. All right, so just a little bit more about our BSN program before we hop into the admission and application details. Like I said, it is a traditional BSN program, meaning that it's entry level. We don't want you to already have any nursing licensure. Plenty of our applicants are already CNAs, certified nursing assistants. Some of our applicants are also LPNs, licensed practical nurses. Those students definitely make great applicants. We don't have a specific track for those folks who already have those licenses. So, unless you already have an RN, the traditional BSN is going to be the best place to start if you don't have a bachelor's degree already. And so once you would be admitted to our program, it is a 2 academic year program. We are on the semester system. So that's 4 semesters here at PLU, fall and spring semesters. The class load is definitely full time, and it's not really negotiable on that. We have a full set of classes for you that you do have to take in sequence each semester, and you'll move through the set of classes with your cohort. You'll be admitted in a 48-person cohort, and you'll move through the 4 semesters of courses with that same cohort. Your time is spread out across 2 academic years and 4 semesters, but we do not use the summer term or the January term for nursing courses. So that means you do have a little bit of time off incorporated into this program. But during the semesters, you will be very busy in a very full-time credit load with nursing classes, labs, and clinicals. We have a fall and spring start. So we have 1 admission cycle once per year. You can apply once per year, and we will consider you for 2, either entry term, fall or spring. You can indicate your preference on the application. I know most people obviously do prefer fall because it's sooner. So right now we're using our admission cycle to place students into fall of 2022 or spring of 2023. So just know that there's 1 chance to apply every year, and you're going to be considered for both of those starting semesters. So it is 4 full semesters from the starting point. So you'd be graduating, 2 academic years later than you would enter the program. Hopefully that makes sense. We have different admission tracks for PLU students, these are students who are already at PLU taking classes, and a different track for folks who would be coming to PLU as a transfer student. So basically, if you're admitted to the School of Nursing, you would start at PLU for the first time. So there's different applications depending on your academic background. This info session is most appropriate for folks who would be transferring to PLU if they get admitted to the nursing program. So currently you might be at another college, community college, university, maybe you're working on prerequisites there. And looking to apply and transfer to schools depending on which nursing programs you get admitted to. So just know that there is separate applications. So if there's any students here who are currently at PLU, if they're freshman or sophomore students, let us know. And I can kind of refer you to your academic advisor for a little bit more information on the application process. And I might be able to answer some of your questions separately. Okay. And then, again, if you already have a bachelor's degree or you almost have a bachelor's degree, definitely look into the entry-level MSN program, because it is basically, it's very similar, but, you would be coming out with an MSN, Master of Science in Nursing instead of a BSN. Okay. I do see that questions are coming in. I am going to address all of these during, future slides. Okay. But actually really quick, someone's asking, I mentioned CNAs and LPNs, if you already have some of those licenses, some programs do require some of those licenses. this person's asking, is being a CNA required to apply to the program? No, it's definitely not required and not expected. We love seeing CNAs apply. That means they've got a little bit of experience and understanding of, their role and the role that nurses play, but it's definitely not required. So you don't need to run out and get your CNA just to be considered. Thanks for asking that. Okay. And then I've got another question in here. If you're a current LPN, would you still complete the full 2 years? Yes, we do not have a separate track that eliminates any coursework for anybody, depending on whatever license you have. So if you're an LPN or a CNA, you're still going to be completing the full 2 years of the program. And I do believe, this next slide does address one of those questions. So just to kind of give you an idea of the pace and the structure and the rigorous nature of our nursing classes, it is a very academically rigorous program. You'll be full-time, you'll be a full-time student with 16 credits each term. That is pretty full-time. You'll be really busy with classes, labs, simulation exercises, and off-campus clinicals in each term that you are enrolled. We have very high expectations as far as grades go. You would be passing your nursing classes with a C or better. So once you're in the program, we do have those high expectations that our students will be doing well in those classes. It's a very time-intensive program. You're going to have at least, depending on the semester, you might have 2 full days of off-campus clinicals. Flexibility is key. It's really, really important that our students are flexible because we do not arrange the class, the lab, the clinical schedule around your schedule. We set the schedule and you need to make it work. So we just put it out there that this is not a program designed for students who are working over 20 hours per week. And I'll also add that if you are working, your job really does need to be flexible to the times that you're assigned to go to clinical and the class times that are posted on the schedule. You won't have very many choices of when you get to go to classes and labs. It really is a very set schedule, and you have one option of, when your class times are. You're also not given any input on where or when you get to go to clinical, what kind of agencies, what areas. Those are all assigned to you. They are all pretty much within 30 miles of PLU. You definitely need to have reliable transportation to get there. The clinical assignments for students are handed down to schools by a governing body in the state of Washington. So we don't have much choice of where you get to go to clinical either. So we have to just take those placements that were given by them and then hand them straight down to you. So we can't make special determinations of who gets to go where and when. We have to make that straight across the board assignment. And so you just need to go where you're assigned to clinical and when you're assigned. So you definitely need to have a very flexible life in order to accommodate that. Okay, so hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of what's expected of you if you're admitted. But we don't want to lead you to believe that nursing has to be your life for the next 2 years. Plenty of our students, they find other things to do at PLU, adding a minor, if there's another academic area they're interested in. Plenty of our students study away. January term and summer, when you wouldn't have any nursing classes, is a great time to do those things. A lot of our students are athletes. They participate in clubs. Plenty of our students do work 20 hours a week or less with a flexible job. And I'll also add that a lot of our students are parents. They might have a lot of responsibilities at home. It definitely is possible. Our students are very busy people, but lots of different types of students, people from tons of different backgrounds, different age groups, are very successful in our program. So I'm not trying to scare you away with talking about how rigorous and time intensive it is. I just want you going in with reasonable expectations for this program. Okay, so hopefully that kind of answers the question. I about kind of minimum work requirements. All right, let's move on. We are going to start talking about the admission criteria and application. I already saw one pretty lengthy question come in about that, but let me get through this and then I'll readdress that question to make sure that it's been answered for you. So first and foremost, I want to talk about prerequisites. So there are several prerequisite courses, and since they are prerequisites, they need to be completed before you would intend to start the program. So if you want to apply now, which you definitely can do, our priority deadline is coming up very soon. It's February 1st to have your entire application completed. But if you want to apply now, you definitely need to have a plan to have all of these prerequisites completed before you would intend to start the program. You don't have to have all the prereqs completed in order to apply. I think that's pretty unreasonable, right? Because, you wouldn't even be starting the program for, several months after you apply. I don't think it's reasonable to ask students to have all the prereqs done in order to apply. We do want to see at least 2 of them done when you apply, but you definitely don't have to have them all done in order to apply. You just need a plan to have them done before you would intend to start. And, you are applying once for those 2 entry terms. So even if you don't think you can get them all done before fall of 2022, you might want to consider trying to apply now anyway, even if you can only be considered for spring of 23. So if you need that fall quarter to finish up your last couple prerequisites, that's okay too. That's a pretty common thing that people will do. So I don't want you waiting a whole year to apply again if there's just a couple of classes that you need and you need to utilize that fall term to get those done. So hopefully that makes sense. Our spring semester starts each February, so it would definitely have to be fall of 2022 that you finish up those prereqs at the very latest. Winter quarter 2023 is not possible because you would be finishing up the prereqs too late in order to start with us in early February. So kind of think about your academic calendar, see if you can fit all these in before you would intend to start. And if you can, definitely apply now, because again, I don't want you waiting a whole year if there's a way that you can speed things up a little bit and get in now. So let's go through what the prerequisites actually are. Hopefully they look at least a little bit familiar to you. I've listed the PLU courses on the left-hand side. So just in case you're here and you're going to PLU right now, those are the courses you're going to be looking for. On the right-hand side, these are the course numbers for most Washington community colleges. The majority of our transfer applicants are taking these courses at a Washington community college. So I've listed those common course numbers. The next slide, I'm going to talk about what to do if these course numbers don't match or you took a different course, but let's go through them. We are looking for an anatomy and physiology series. It has to be at least a 2-course series in anatomy and physiology. Most colleges use a 2-course series, but there are a few out there that have a 3-course series. And most colleges have anatomy and physiology 1 and anatomy and physiology 2, but some colleges have anatomy as a whole first course, and then they have physiology as the whole second course. So we'll accept kind of all those iterations of that anatomy and physiology series, but it does have to be an actual series, and it does have to include a lab into the course. We strongly prefer in-person labs, but right now during COVID, we have made that exception. If your lab has moved online, or if you took this class online and the lab was online, that's okay right now. That you're going to be totally fine. I imagine we're going to be temporarily approving those online labs for the next couple years, because we're going to see people cycle through that have taken these classes during COVID. So yeah, basically, if you've taken the classes during COVID and your lab was online, that's okay. That's one of the most common questions I'm getting right now. So yeah, an A&P series that's at least 2 courses is what we're going to require. We also require a chem class. It's just a single chem class, but it does have to incorporate organic and biochem. So that's typically Chem 131 at the community colleges. Double check with your advisor because some students get the wrong idea and they take general chemistry. That is not a prerequisite for us. Gen Chem is usually Chem 121 and we need Chem 131. That's just, one step farther. I think Chem 121 is a prereq to Chem 131, but it definitely has to be a class that is an intro to organic and biochem. Or if in your past you took a separate organic chem class and a separate biochem class, we'll usually accept that as well. Here at PLU, it's Chem 105, Chemistry of Life. There is no chemistry prerequisite to that class, which is kind of nice if you're a PLU student. Up next is microbiology. That's Bio 260 typically at the colleges, and that is just a single intro to micro course. It does also require a lab. In person, obviously preferred, but again, like I said, online labs are okay right now. So if you need to take the lab online, that's totally fine. So all these science-based courses, these are the hard science-based prerequisite courses. All of these expire after 6 years. So if you have taken these over 6 years ago, if it's kind of on the cusp, right at 6 years from your time of application, we'll usually provide you some grace there. But if you're really heading into more like 7 and into 8 years, you really do have to repeat these courses because we are gonna ask you to do that. If we're kind of calculating that out and it's really deep into 7 years, if you're way past the 6-year mark. So you can check with us, email us if you really aren't sure if you're on the cusp, if you're okay or not. But like I said, we'll provide a little bit of grace to students who are on the cusp of 6 years. But yeah, they do expire. So just kind of know that going in. But it's just these hard sciences, the biology, the chem, that expire. The next 3 do not expire. Those can be however old. So those are Psych 200, that's a lifespan psychology course that covers social, emotional, cognitive development from birth through death and dying. Typically Psych 101 or Psych 100, Intro to Psych, is a prerequisite for that course. Math 146, that's usually Introduction to Statistics. Really, there's a lot of iterations of a statistics class. It doesn't have to be the actual Math 146 if you cover the basics of statistics. That includes inferential statistics and hypothesis testing. So, business statistics, social science statistics, there's a lot of there's a psych-based statistics class out there at PLU, that's Stats 232. We'll usually be pretty generous as we approve those stats classes. It just has to cover those fundamentals of statistics, course content. Okay, and then finally, nutrition. It does need to be a science-based nutrition course that talks about how food interacts with the body on a science level, not just a healthy eating course, although most nutrition classes also incorporate, basics on how to eat healthy. That's Nutrition 101 typically at Washington Community Colleges. Here at PLU, it's within the nursing department, but you don't have to be a nursing major to take it. It's Nurse 120. And that is going to be offered, as far as I know, every term, every fall, J term, and spring for the foreseeable future. So you can feel free to take that pretty much any time if you're already a PLU student. If you're not currently going to PLU, if you're not enrolled in classes at this time, a common question I get from potential transfers is, should I start going to PLU now and take some of these prerequisites at PLU? And in theory, that sounds like a good idea, but logistically, no, you should not do that. I do not recommend coming to PLU just to take prerequisites, because usually by the time new transfer students get to register, these classes are full. We have a large population of pre-nursing students here at PLU, so they typically fill up those classes before new students get a chance to register. So I would stay at the community college that you're at, and complete those prerequisites and come to PLU if you are admitted into the School of Nursing. All right. All right, let me just check questions really quick and make sure that we don't have any Okay, I think all of these I'm going to address except for, oh, do we accept courses from Portage Learning? Yeah, so Portage, also called Geneva College, does offer all of our, most of our prerequisites online. So yes, we do accept courses from Portage. We do prefer those in-person classes, but we totally understand right now with COVID, it can be pretty difficult. So if taking these classes at a community college doesn't really fit into your plan, or if you're out of state, or if you just need something online, we do accept courses from Portage. Let me tell you how to figure that out. So on my next slide, yeah, okay. I think I've covered all of this. 2 prerequisites must be successfully completed. We've already talked about that. It's okay to apply if not all of your prereqs are done. They just need to be in progress or planned to be completed before you would start. The application does ask you to report your plan to complete all the prereqs and self-report your grades that you've gotten in the ones you've already completed. So just make sure you have that ready as you apply. And again, not ideal to try to take prereqs at PLU, stay at your local community college. The science courses, we need the lab, but an online lab is okay during COVID. So we're fine there. And then, I already talked about this too. All hard sciences have to be completed within the last 6 years, but the other prerequisites do not expire. Okay, this last bullet point. See the comparable course guide on our nursing application page. We have a guide that has a ton of course numbers that have already been approved by various colleges throughout Washington and throughout the country. And the Portage Learning, Geneva College classes that you were asking about, those are on that comparable course guide as well. So if you go to our website, plu.edu/nursing, /application, there is a prerequisite tab that I want you to click on, and it's going to tell you all about the prerequisites that are required. There's a link to our comparable course guide, so you can look up and see if the class you're thinking of is already approved as a prerequisite. But there's also a link to a separate form you can fill out if you still can't find the course number you're thinking of that you want to know if it's approved or not. Okay, so it's called the prerequisite review form. So you'll just need to fill out that form and attach a course syllabus if you don't see your specific course on our comparable course guide. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Most students don't need to fill out that prerequisite review form unless you've gone, to school out of state, or taken a really, really specific, stats class or something like that you can't find on the comparable course guide. So hopefully that makes sense. Let us know if you have trouble finding that comparable course guide. You can email the School of Nursing and we'll send you a link, but it is pretty easy to find once you navigate to plu.edu/nursing/application. Okay. All right. Another question, is Nutrition 100 the same as Nutrition 101? I do believe so. Yeah, I think so. Most of the Washington community colleges do have Nutrition 101. But as long as Nutrition 100 is a science-based approach, we will usually approve it. So look on our comparable course guide, and if you still don't see it, fill out that prerequisite review form and attach a syllabus, okay? Okay, let's see. If you just need one more course to take during the summer to complete the prerequisites, can I still apply for fall? Yes, yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier. If you feel like you can, get all of those prerequisites done before fall of 2022 or before spring of 2023, then yes, you really should apply now, because I don't want you waiting a whole year if it's just one class that you're waiting for. Okay, so talk to your academic advisor at your college, put together a plan to get these prerequisites done so that you can apply sooner rather than later. Okay. I think I'm going to move on. Actually, let me see. I have a question about retaking prerequisites. Let me see if I talk about this in the next slide. Not really, but yeah, so there's a question about retaking prerequisites. So that is allowed. You technically are allowed to repeat any prerequisites you want as many times as you want, but you know, thinking about that in terms of like a competitive application standpoint, it's not necessarily the most competitive thing if we see that students are taking multiple attempts to complete the prerequisite courses in order to get the minimum grade that we need. Okay, so you'll see on our admission criteria here, some of our minimums are listed. Actually, all of our minimums are listed. 2 prerequisites completed at the time of application. So I've already talked about that. We want to see at least 2 courses out of those prerequisites done when we review your application. We need a grade of 2.5, and that's a B minus, 2.5 if your school does numeric grading, but a B minus letter grade if your school does letter grading. So that 2.5 or B minus or better in each individual prerequisite course. Okay, so that's what this person's asking about, if you have to repeat a course in order to achieve that grade. So yeah, technically repeats are okay, but it might make your application a little bit less competitive. You know, if all else is equal and we see another applicant that, you know, has gotten the same grades in the prerequisite courses, but they got those grades on the first try, from a grade standpoint, you know, that person would be more competitive, right? We do evaluate the applications on a holistic basis, though. We're not only looking at grades, and I'll talk a little bit about what else we look at in a second, but just kind of think about that and do your best to do the best you can in the first try on your prerequisite courses, okay? Let's see what else. So another minimum we have is a cumulative GPA of a 3.0 or better in the prerequisites. So we are going to average out your best grade in each of the prerequisite courses, and that GPA needs to be 3.0 or better. Okay, so we're only going to factor in your best grade in each prerequisite and calculate that into your prerequisite GPA. But if you are getting 2.5 grades, you know, B minuses in each of the prerequisite courses, obviously your cumulative prereq GPA is not going to reach 3.0. So you do need to have at least some grades that are above 3.0 in order to achieve this minimum. All right. So think about that. We do have students that typically have a higher prereq GPA than cumulative GPA. And that brings us to our 4th bullet point here with our minimums. We need a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better. And that's a GPA in all of your college coursework. Everything you've taken post high school across all of the colleges that you've attended. We're going to average all of that out, and your cumulative GPA across all of your college level coursework has to be 3.0 or better. We do take a hard line on these GPA requirements. We do not admit students who do not meet these minimums. They are minimums for a reason. We do have a pretty healthy applicant pool. So we do not, at this time, we don't admit students who fall below that. So really take stock of your application. You might want to calculate your own GPA. There are some really good GPA calculators out there that will help you do that. Just make sure that you're hitting these marks before you apply, because like I said, unfortunately, we don't consider students who don't meet these minimums. Okay. And then finally, I'll mention, yeah, you do need junior standing at the time of entry to our program. So that's either 60 semester credits or 90 quarter credits, because you are going to be transferring to PLU as a junior. And we really do want you to graduate from PLU as soon as you finish the nursing program. This leads me to a really important point. So I want you to think carefully about where you're going to college now and if you're seeking a degree. It is best, I would highly, highly recommend, to work with your advisor at your college and get an AA degree, or it's also called a DTA, direct transfer agreement. It has to be that specific degree, a direct transfer agreement, AA degree, from a Washington, Oregon, or California community college. It's also called a transfer degree. Basically, if you get that degree, you can transfer into PLU with junior standing, and you basically only need to complete the nursing major in order to graduate from PLU. There is one extra class that's non-nursing that you would have to take. That's a religion class. And you would be able to take that during January term or summer when you're not enrolled in nursing classes. So that's the most ideal situation for you. Or if you already have a bachelor's degree, that's another ideal situation because it works very much the same way as that transfer associate's degree, credit-wise, because you'd be coming in with that advanced standing. Now, if you don't come to PLU with that degree, that direct transfer associate's degree or previous bachelor's degree, I can't guarantee how many classes PLU is going to ask you to take in terms of gen ed classes in order to graduate. So you might still be responsible for quite a few PE classes, literature, philosophy, fine arts, social sciences. That, every college has those core requirements that's required to graduate, right? PLU is the same way. If you come into PLU without that direct transfer degree, PLU is going to look at all of the classes you've previously taken, and they might find some gaps, and it's possible. I've seen students be responsible for like 6 classes, and it's going to be really hard to fit all those in 2 years along with the nursing curriculum. All right. So I just think that if you're already at a community college, if you already have several classes you've taken there and you're already doing the prereqs there, it really makes the most sense to work with your advisor and go for that direct transfer degree before you would enter PLU. Okay, so I'm hoping all of that makes sense. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that. Let me check the questions really quick. Okay. Should Running Start students get a DTA? Yes. I'm going to talk about Running Start in a little while. If you have the time, it would be great to get the DTA for Running Start student. That will put you in a kind of a different application pool, and it will allow you to apply to start sooner in the School of Nursing. Basically, everyone who's already at a community college, I recommend the DTA for sure. So do it if you can. That would be really great. All right. Okay, let me answer some of these questions. If my school doesn't offer the subject during that quarter, can I take it at a different community college? Oh yeah. So some of our students do bounce around at a couple different colleges at the same time to take their prerequisites. So it's not uncommon for me to hear about students attending, South Seattle Community College and North Seattle Community College during the same quarter to take a couple different classes, because all the, some of the classes they need at South aren't offered or they're full, so they go to North or something like that. Okay, so totally fine to bounce around and take classes at different community colleges. No worries there. Okay, next question. You said that nutrition is part of the nursing program. So can we wait and take it during the nursing program? That's a really good question. No, you cannot. So we did allow this the first year that we started requiring nutrition, but we are not going to be allowing that moving forward. So please definitely do take nutrition, even though it's offered under the nursing department and we're the ones doing it. We can't guarantee in the future that it's going to be offered at a time that doesn't conflict with the nursing classes that we're also offering. So have it done beforehand, please. All right, last question. I think I have all the prereqs, but they're from Colorado. So I submitted a prereq evaluation. Great, good job. Do you know how long that usually takes? Yeah, so I would say allow us like, I don't know, 5 to 7 business days, sometimes up to 2 weeks, depending on how many of those are really coming in. Sometimes it does take a while to get through all those prerequisite reviews. So if you are unsure, this is for anybody, if you're unsure if your prerequisites count, definitely look up that comparable course guide I was talking about. Do that now so that if you need to get some of those worked out, or if some of your prereqs are not approved, you'll have time, at least more time, to figure out a plan. so that maybe you can still apply now. Okay, so figure all those prereqs out sooner rather than later. Yeah, actually, I think right now I am all caught up on those prerequisite review forms. So check your email if you haven't heard from me. But if you still haven't heard, there might be some kind of glitch. So definitely email us if you haven't heard about your prereqs after filling out the form. Okay, I'm going to try to move on. Oh, here, where do we send reviews? Good question. That it's a form that's found on our website. It's called the prerequisite review form. So if you're not sure if your prerequisites count, if they're equivalent for us, you will need to submit a prerequisite review form, and that is found on the application page of our nursing website. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on because I'm worried I'm going to run out of time. Don't worry, we'll keep moving through all this. Okay, so here's some more criteria, some of our qualitative criteria. So I said earlier that we do evaluate applications holistically. We don't just look at grades. Grades are important, but we don't look at that's not the only thing we use to make decisions. So we're looking at recommendations, essays, and an optional resume that you can include. For the recommendations, we're going to ask that you put in the information. It's all, the application will prompt you on putting in information from 2 individuals. And one of the recommendations has to come from a college level faculty whose course you have completed. Okay, and we don't really care what kind of college faculty. It doesn't have to be from a prereq. I would say the college faculty who knows you best is going to give us the best information. So maybe go with whoever knows you the best or who you have the best relationship with. We'd prefer the second recommendation come from an employer, from your professional side of life or another faculty. If you have more of a personal recommender, like a family friend, a colleague, something like that, we do allow up to 3 recommendations. So maybe that person can be your 3rd recommendation, but we would prefer that the first 2 recommendation comes from academic or professional sources. Okay. And that recommender, who you're going to be putting in their name and email, once you submit the application, the system is going to email that person with a form to fill out. So warn them that they're going to need to look in their email for a link to complete. And your application is not considered complete until we get both of those 2 required recommendations. Okay, so thinking about deadlines, I said earlier that February 1st is our priority deadline. If you want to meet that priority deadline, you need to have both of your recommendations completed and in the system by that date. Okay. Okay, we're also going to be looking at essays. You will type these essays directly into the application. There are prompts, so you're going to need to actually start your application to see this year's prompts. So if you haven't started your application and you want to apply this year, start that application now so you can start thinking about your essay prompts. We do allow additional statements for you to upload if you want to provide us more information. For example, most students utilize this option if they have, some lower grades in their past, if they've had repeats in the prerequisites, things like that. Or if you just want to talk to us about what you've been doing to prepare for nursing school, why nursing, anything, honestly. If you have something to say and it doesn't fit into your essay prompts, you can do an optional statement and we'll read it. And then as an option, you can also submit a resume. I would highly recommend this just so that we can see all of your professional, your academic experience, your volunteer experience. We don't require any specific volunteer experience or volunteer hours or a CNA license or anything like that. But if you have any of that stuff, we really want to see it on your resume. And we also want, to see that come through in your essays a little bit too. But any professional or volunteer experience, any training, any certifications, any notable achievements or applicable courses that you're taking, put on that resume. Even if you feel like you don't have enough experiences to to necessitate a resume, I think it's still nice to put one together just so it shows that you're going the extra mile on that application, and just so that we can get to know you a little bit better through your experiences. Okay, so definitely an option, but I would highly recommend. And please, please keep it 1 to 2 pages. I do not want to be reading, a 5-page CV. That's too much. So 1 to 2 pages, please. All right, so that's a little bit more about some of the qualitative things we're looking for. Let's move on. So some other components, some other things that you're going to be asked to do as you're applying. This is really, really important, this first bullet point. We absolutely need official transcripts from all the previous colleges that you've attended. That's another thing that's going to hold up your application. Your application will not be complete until we've received transcripts from all the colleges that you've attended. So, and that's separate from the application forms. The application, there's some statements in there that's going to remind you to do this, but it's a whole separate process you're going to have to complete. So you're going to need to go to your registrar's website from the colleges that you've attended and order official transcripts to have your former colleges send those directly to PLU. Okay, so you cannot turn those in. They can't be unofficial transcripts or screenshots from your student account or anything like that. It has to be an official transcript sent from all of your previous colleges to PLU. And also, if you do have military transcripts, we'll need those as well. And if you apply without having all the prereqs completed, you're going to need to send updated transcripts to us so that we can see your progress and have all that documented. Okay. If you are a current PLU student, you do not need to have your PLU transcript sent to us. We already have access to that, so don't worry about that. And since you already had to send official transcripts before starting at PLU, you probably don't need to send any official transcripts at all, unless you've somehow attended a college after you started at PLU. So if you're a current PLU student, odds are you don't have to worry about sending in a transcript. This is mainly for transfer students if you've attended other colleges besides PLU, okay? But again, a very important step for you transfer students. Make sure that you are allotting enough time for those transcripts to be received by us by the deadline. We're also going to ask for some basic biographical info. We're going to need you to self-report your progress in the prerequisite courses. I already talked about that. And then there are some questions that relate to nursing licensure. We're going to ask you about your physical health and emotional stability sufficient to meet the demands of nursing with or without reasonable accommodations. We are going to ask you about your fluency in speaking, reading, writing, and comprehending college level English. So if English was not your first language and you have not completed high school in the US, you are likely going to be asked to complete a English proficiency exam. So all the more reason to start your application early. If you have questions about our English proficiency requirement, let us know. There's also a lot of information on our website. You're also going to be acknowledging that you will be running background checks and drug screens. And there's also a lot of clinical onboarding requirements, including vaccines that you're going to be required to do. One important thing to note is that most, if not all, nursing schools are requiring all nursing students to be vaccinated against COVID-19. PLU is also including the booster to include as fully vaccinated, if that makes sense. So not only have the first 2 shots of your vaccine, you also need to be boosted at PLU. So PLU does allow for religious or medical exemptions from the vaccine, but the School of Nursing does not. There is no way to get an exemption from being vaccinated if you want to be a student in the School of Nursing. And that's because all of our clinical partners are requiring it. And our clinical partners are not allowing for religious or medical exemptions from the vaccine. So just wanted to put that out there for everybody. If you're not vaccinated and you do want to become a PLU nursing student, you really do need to plan to get vaccinated in order to start with us. Okay, and then there is also an application fee that you do need to pay in order to become in order for your application to be complete, and that is $75 for transfers. If you're a PLU student, it is $73 because we do use two separate systems for applications, and the transfer application charges us a little bit more money to use it, so it's a tiny bit of a higher fee. So just account for that application fee as you're getting ready to apply. Couple more things. Okay, so here's some deadlines for you. Actually, here are these are the different applications that you're going to be filling out depending on who you are. Okay, so somebody mentioned out there you are in Running Start. That is a separate application process from transfer students. So you listen really carefully because I want everyone to fill out the right applications. You are considered a transfer student if you have already graduated high school. So like if you're not currently in high school and you've already graduated in the past, then you are considered a transfer student, and you will be doing one application at plu.edu/transfer/apply. That is the general PLU transfer application. And once you select that you want to apply for the School of Nursing, all of the nursing application components are going to pop up in that application. So you only have to do one application for consideration generally into PLU and into the School of Nursing. Okay. So you'll do the online application form, you'll do the essays. PLU is going to use the nursing essays, to complete that requirement for general PLU admission. So there is a chance that you could be admitted to PLU, but not to the School of Nursing. But basically PLU admission and nursing, we're going to share the same application to make those determinations. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, just one application if you've already graduated high school for transfers. If you are running START, if you are technically still in high school and have not graduated high school yet, you have to do two applications. And I'm sorry, it's going to be a little bit more work, but that's just how our systems operate. So if you're running START, you need to do the first year PLU general student application. Okay, and that's found on our admission website. It should be plu.edu/apply, I believe. Okay, so that's a whole separate step that you have to do. In addition to that, you will also be applying directly into the School of Nursing using our application. It's called the Associate's Degree Seeking High School Seniors application. And I know that's really specific sounding, but basically if you're a high school student and you're running START, you should be in your second year of running START. So you should currently be a senior, and you do have to be seeking that associate's degree in order to apply directly into the School of Nursing to be considered for fall 22 or spring 23. You also need to have, plan to have all those prerequisites done, like I already talked about earlier. Okay, so if you're running START and you're doing these two applications, that means you're ready to be considered to walk straight into the School of Nursing in fall 22 or spring 23. All right, so I got that question earlier about whether a running START student should be seeking a DTA. The answer is yes, definitely. If you are a running START student and you're not going to have time to get that associate's degree, you are not going to be able to apply directly into the School of Nursing. So you should really be just applying to PLU as a first-year student, and you can wait till you're first year at PLU to apply into the School of Nursing. Okay. So the associate's degree seeking high school senior application is on the nursing website. So again, if you are ready, to be considered to walk straight into the School of Nursing next year, it's on the nursing website, plu.edu/nursing/application. That's where all of our applications are. That's actually even where there's a link to the transfer application there as well. So you'll see a series of a few different applications there, and you are looking for the associate's degree seeking high school seniors application. So do that in addition to applying as a first year student. Okay, I'm sorry there's not anywhere on the slide for this, but I know that there's a couple PLU students, students currently at PLU out there you should also be going to plu.edu/nursing/application, and you can find your application. So current PLU students are going to be using a whole separate application, and it's called the Application for Current and Former PLU Students. So that should be really easy to find. You should be hopefully working with your student success advisor. Hopefully they know that you're getting ready to apply and you've already put together a plan to complete all of the prerequisites before you would intend to start. Most of you, your advisor is either myself or Chris Plain. So if you're currently at PLU, check in with your advisor as you're getting ready to apply. I think I indicated earlier, to let me know if you are a PLU student. It's not really necessary that, you and I touch base, if you're a PLU student and you're applying, as long as you're working with your advisor, that's fine. So there's nothing really, that's the only kind of specific thing that I need to let current PLU students know, is that there is that separate application on our site. You shouldn't be applying as a transfer, or anything like that. There is a separate application for you. Okay. All right. And deadlines. Everybody, regardless if you're applying as a transfer, running start, or current PLU student, your priority deadline is February 1st. And that, like I've said before, all of your materials that are required, your transcripts, your recommendation forms, your application fee, your essays are going to be contained in that application. So everything that we're asking you to complete needs to be received by February 1st in order to meet that priority deadline. Okay. But it's okay if you can't make that priority deadline. We totally understand. We don't want to cut you off on February 1st. So we do extend until April 1st if you want to apply just a little bit late. It's okay. We do admit students every year who don't meet that priority deadline. So we've extended that to April 1st. That is the final deadline that we're going to accept any materials. So even if you just submit your application on February 1st, that's great, but your recommendations sure aren't going to be in by that time. So you're not going to be able to be considered if you wait that long to apply. So just make sure you're being proactive and all of your materials are going to be received by the deadline that you want to meet. Okay. All right. A little bit more about our application timeline. We do take a little bit of time to make our decisions. Here's a note about transfers using the fall application to be considered for the next fall and/or spring start. So basically, if you're a transfer and you're starting your transfer application to PLU, you might get the option to either apply for fall or spring. Select fall. But just know that the School of Nursing is going to be basically considering everyone for either fall or spring start. It's just a systems thing that we want you to be using the fall application because eventually the spring application might come out, and I don't want your application to kind of get put in a separate bin if you're applying specifically for spring. So everyone should just select fall. And then it's possible, we're going to see based on your prerequisite plan if you really are ready to start fall. So don't worry about if you only want to be considered for spring. You should still fill out the fall PLU application, and the School of Nursing will consider you for either fall or spring depending on what's most appropriate and depending on the space we have available. Sorry if that's confusing, but hopefully that makes sense. It's possible that you could receive a general PLU transfer admission decision just from the general university anytime after January 1st. But according to what I know, they are going to be deferring to us to send out the School of Nursing decision before you get any other type of admission decision. In the past, some of those decisions were sent out separately, like you could be admitted to PLU in general if you want to, come to PLU as a transfer student and study psychology or whatever you want to study. So those separate PLU admission decisions were sent out, separate from the School of Nursing. But we are trying to make it more of a nursing specific decision for those nursing applicants, because we know that you're not really interested in coming to PLU to study psychology, right? You want to study nursing, and that's the decision that you probably care most about. So so we are working to try to just get you that one decision from School of Nursing, and if you're not admitted to the School of Nursing, we'll reach out to you to see if you would like to come to PLU anyway to either study something else, or, if you do end up wanting to come to PLU just to take some prerequisites, you can work with the Office of Admission on that as well. Okay, February 1st is our priority nursing deadline. I've already talked about that. April 1st through June 30th is when nursing decisions are sent out. If you meet the priority nursing deadline of February 1st, then we're going to work really hard to get you a decision by April 1st. But technically through June 30th is when some of those decisions could come out, into the summer as well. Okay, so just know that we might be taking a little bit longer to review some of our applications. We do receive a lot of them, and it takes us quite a bit of time to get through everyone. Okay, I'm not going to stay on this slide because I've already talked about the application. So I'm gonna let you all go here pretty soon, especially since we are beyond our hour together. But let me take a look into our Q&A here. If you have questions after this session ends, you can feel free to contact your admission counselor. Most transfer students, their admission counselor is Brandon Bruin, or you can contact the School of Nursing at nurs@plu.edu. Just note that all of our applications are found at plu.edu/nursing/application. Okay, so let's try to dig into some of these questions that are still unanswered. Can we use parchment to send the transcripts? Yeah, so we will accept parchment and online transcripts, but they just definitely have to come straight from your former colleges. Okay, good question. Okay, online it states April 1st is the last day for priority deadline. Is this not correct? Yeah, that doesn't sound correct. It should say that April 1st is the final deadline, but students will only receive priority consideration if they meet the February 1st deadline. Okay. Do I still need to take a language assessment if I've completed English 101 and have a master's degree in the US? Generally, no, but do email us and we can specifically let you know if we can waive the English proficiency requirement, okay? Yeah, typically we only waive it if you've completed if you've gone to like primary or high school in the US, not just college, but usually if you have an actual college degree, we might also waive that English proficiency as well. Okay, if the student is admitted to the spring cohort, should she enroll at PLU for the fall? Oh, that's a good question. I would say yes, only if you are not going to earn a DTA degree, or if you don't already have a previous bachelor's degree. Because if you're admitted to start nursing in the spring, but you don't have that direct transfer agreement, you might have several classes that you have to take that are non-nursing in order to graduate. And you might want to use the fall before you start at PLU to do some of those classes. But for most students, they do have that DTA degree. I would say that enrolling at PLU for the fall, if you're admitted to spring, does not make sense, because you're going to have time to take that extra religion course during J term or summer. And I wouldn't want you to be spending money on a full semester of PLU tuition if you don't really need it. But once you get that admission decision, if you're admitted for spring and you're considering coming early to PLU to get classes done, reach out to us, reach out to your admission counselor, reach out to me, and we can kind of determine if that's the best thing for you to do. Okay, who do we send official transcripts to? Yeah, so your school is really going to know where they go. It's not like your registrar at your community college is going to send them, somewhere totally random. Your school has a lot of experience sending us transcripts. And, if different departments at PLU receive transcripts, they know to send them to the Office of Admission. But, if you specifically do need to note, have your transcript sent to the Office of Admission at PLU. It's a pretty easy process when you go through your school's order process, to get those transcripts sent. So don't say School of Nursing, because we aren't the ones who are opening all the mail. It's really the admission office if you have to specify what department. Okay. With IB classes, how do we send them to you and how are they scaled? That's a good question. So you will want official score reports sent to PLU if you do have IB credit or if you have AP credit. And we can get that applied to your curriculum at PLU. I would say that's only really applicable if you are not going to have that direct transfer agreement. Otherwise, we probably don't need your IB or AP classes. But yeah, work with the Office of Admission on getting an official score report. That the IB and the AP do have that official equivalent to official transcripts that you would send out to schools. So you want to go through IB or AP and select the schools you want them to send those score reports or those transcripts to, and have them sent to PLU. Okay. The Office of Undergrad Admission will know more about how to do that. So maybe if you're still confused, email the Office of Admission. I think it's admission@plu.edu. Okay, would calculus cover the intro statistics prerequisite? Good question, but really not. Sorry, calculus is a whole other thing. So definitely has to be a statistics course specifically. If you're still unsure whether you've got the right course, again, look into our comparable course guide that's on our website, on the application page of the School of Nursing website. Okay. We have hit well beyond our time. I don't see any more chats or Q&A. I see that some people have already gone because their needs have been met. So thanks everybody for attending today. We look forward to reading your applications. And again, if you have more questions after we end this session, go ahead and email either the Office of Admission or check in with your admission counselor. You can also email the School of Nursing with your questions. Thanks for attending. Thanks for your interest in PLU, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.